these out of the refrigerator, actually the freezer side of the refrigerator, take them to the shop where I've got my press, and we'll see if these can press out of here. Oh, they're cold. They've been in here for about 36 hours. So we'll put them in there. Ooh, it's cold. And put the socket on top, press them out, but we're going to heat this first so it expands and this stays cold. It'll stay little. Should come right out. Alright, so I just got this out of the refrigerator. You can see the frost on it. And now what I'm going to do is set this up with the right size should have come out here probably and set this up ahead of time, but got that under there. That under there. Okay, so we got a lot of tension on this right now. Well, not a lot, but I did get just some tension on it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the heat on and heat this outer. I'm going to heat this outer thing and I'm going to put a little pressure on it. Don't forget the back side of this. Okay, let's stop for a minute. Watch out what you touch with this thing. It's hot. Let's take a look and see if it moved. It got warm. Feel it through my gloves. Dude, I don't think a thing moved. Next best bet, that's what a lot of people are doing, is cutting this weld right here and then just rotating this whole round thing and then re-welding it. I guess that's what I'm going to have to do. Another person online, he cuts it right here. He just cuts it with a die grinder all the way across and lets it let go, and then he knocked that out with a hammer, just with a hammer handle. Turns it, puts it back, and he puts it in a vise, and he welds that crack back up. But that's a lot of heat on that rubber, you know, welding that all the way back up. And this is heat on it too when you weld here. I don't know what's the best thing to do. Okay. Cut. To me, that looks cut. Somebody's calling us. Let's see if I can hit it right here. Tell you what we could do. Let's drive something right here in this corner, like a cold chisel. Go over there. Tell you what, that little weld is more efficient than you think. You know? Goodness. I think I'll just cut a little more with that die grinder, but there can't be much more left. I mean, it really does look like it's there. Let's see right here. Alright, so I've just hit this right in the crack that I was doing with the die grinder, and it just popped off. So this is what it looks like. You know, I wanted to press that centerpiece out, but instead, this is just a nice barrel. So I'm just going to clean that weld up a little bit, and then I'm going to rotate this. And if you look from this angle, you see where I've already got the horizontal. So it was right here, like that. What we're going to do is we're going to rotate and get it right there, where these two lines are the same level, same parallel plane as these. And then I'll come right in here, I'll shine this up, and I'll get my weld again right there. And if I want to, I can come underneath and get a weld on the back side too. They didn't do that, and it sure was hard to get off of there. So we probably don't have to, but that's how I'm going to do it. And then I'll tape this so it doesn't get shot with paint, and I'll just shoot it back black again. Okay, I'm told it's dinner time, so we're going to run inside and eat. So you saw me cut this off out there in the shop, and now I've got it polished down and re-welded, where now if you look at this, you can see the horizontalness of this is even with this plate. So it's been rotated. You can see I had to put a new weld here, and I had to put a new weld here. And don't make fun of my welding, I'm not a perfect welder, but that's a sound weld. So for the second one, what I think I'm going to do is, just so you guys will see both ways of doing this, because one is to do what I did, cut this whole mechanism off the plate, rotate it, weld it back in flat. What I'm going to do with this one is, you can see it's still rotated here. It's still rotated with respect to the plate, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this outer shell right here with a die grinder, and that's going to let this outer pipe basically pop open a little bit. I'm going to just rotate this to where it's flat again, and then I'm going to put this in a vise, clamp back on it, and I'm going to weld this right back together. So it'll have one weld on it instead of two, and it's a different technique that some people are using online, and so I wanted to show you guys. I'm going to leave these welds, these original factory welds, on there, and I'm just going to do one of each so that you guys can get to see each technique. One thing I want to note is, I know how much I'm going to rotate this. It's only about, I don't know, I'd say about 15 to 20 degrees. So what I did was I measured that same rotation, and I'm putting this cut and where I'll be re-welding it, right where one of these hollow spots is on the rubber in there. So I didn't want it to be right on one of the big rubber pieces. I wanted it to be kind of where it's hollow in there. And I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but I just didn't want it to be hot right on that rubber when I'm welding back across. And I'll probably try to do a fast, just one bead across, just a pretty quick weld right across here. I'm not going to try to stay on there and let the heat get too much. And then what everybody's doing is they're welding it right there, and then they're coming back on this. This is the back side back here, where it sticks out a little bit. They're putting a couple of tack welds on each side just to keep that inner thing from trying to rotate. So let me get out to the shop and get this cut, and we'll clamp it and re-weld it. Will be even all the way across, so it pops the same. Sorry about the compressor noise. Now you can see that I'm pushing this just with my hands up where I can get a grip on it. so y'all can see what this looks like. You can see where it was pressed in. A little bit of rust on it. So water and stuff actually can get in there. Okay. So I need to rotate it this way. Get it flat. Just like that. I noted on my other one. And so I'm going to flush it up in the front. And this one, just like my other one, the back, this horizontal slot on the back is not exactly the same horizontal as the front. If you look at this, you can tell it's still off just a little bit, but the back looks pretty horizontal. So what I did was I kind of split the difference on the other one. I just kind of rotated it where when I looked through, they were both fairly close. I mean, it's just giving you some adjustment anyway, so it's not like it's a real hypercritical twist here that you're doing. Okay, so now, as you can see, that's going to be just straight, flat with the plate. But looking down through there, I don't know if you can see how those two oblong things don't exactly line up. So now it's time to put a clamp back on this and put pressure on it and come along here and weld. So I'll use my my grinder up at the garage where the welder is, and I'll clean this up real good so I can push that back together and weld it. That was pretty quick. It was a lot quick. I have to say that was a lot quicker than grinding these two welds off the side and worrying about messing them up. I mean, that's just a straight cut and then it pops. So I guess the verdict will be out for a long time whether one's better than the other. I mean, now you're going to see a weld on the outside here instead of down here in these cracks, but especially if you're a nice welder, you know, you can put a nice little bead on that. I wouldn't worry about it. Oh, and this is what I was showing you. So you see the hollow part right here in the rubber right there, and see how my crack is right on that hollow point. So just kind of plan your way where it's like that, and that way you won't melt that rubber so bad when you weld it back. Kind of shine it up so I can weld it easy. Maybe kind of came around the corner a little bit so I can get a shiny spot to tack it a couple places. So now remember, the front edge of this ring inside a ring is flush, so I had to push that back just a hair. It sticks out on the back. Okay, and then make sure it stayed level before you start welding on it. But the extra of the inner cylinder, the extra sticks back. This little thing like an arrowhead goes forward. So this is the back side. This thing sticks out of the rubber more on the back. This is more flush on the rubber on the front. It's a bigger hole on the front, a littler hole on the back. Smells a little bit like hot rubber, but you can see how I have two clamps on it coming from two different angles to put that pressure on there. I think I'm going to shine this up right here and get a little bit right here on the front edge. It's not a bad weld. I slowed down up here and got a little bit more build-up than I had down here, but it's not horrible. So, you saw how I did this. Basically, I had two clamps on it coming from two different angles. I looked down in that crack, made sure it was tightened back together, and then just laid a beetle on there. That's the way you do it. Kind of came back and hit this right on the edge. And then what I'm going to do now is take these clamps off, and swing this up where I can get right back here and give me a little, actually I'll probably do it on the back side. I'll shine it up a little bit and give me a couple little tacks between the two pieces of pipe so they can't rotate. It's good though. It's another way to do it, guys. Now when it's under the car, somebody can see this weld, but these still look factory, so I think it's sixes. You know, either you're going to have your welds in here, which are kind of aftermarket welds on both sides, or you're going to have one weld right here. This is easy to weld. It's just right here on top, so it's not down in a crack or anything like that. So it's an easy weld at least. Kind of like it, as long as this thing doesn't move. I had those on there. Did everything I had to turn them down as tight as I could. Okay guys, now that you see me do one of these each way, where we actually re-welded down here on the bottom on each side and rotated it that way, or we cut the outside like I did on that last one and re-welded it, you're ready to go. So you decide which way you want to do that. I think basically this one cut on the outside is the fastest way to do it, and you get to keep the factory welds at the bottom, and it seems to work pretty good. So what I've done is I've now bolted them to the plate that's going to be welded to the frame of the truck. So I got these plates from Ed Ritchie online, and he can send you, he lives out in California, he can mail these to you no matter what, but he plasma cuts them and they fit just perfect on the bottom here, and they're 1/4 inch steel. And that way what you do is, we're going to take these, this is the one on the driver's side, and weld it up to my frame, and as you can see then we'll have the mount underneath for that trailing arm. So I've got them both this way. Let's go to the front of the truck and I'll show you how I'm going to put these under there before I ever mount the front of the CV cross member permanently. I want to put these on there so they're on there while I do all my final mounting. Okay guys, one thing I wanted to note while I get these bolted on, here's the lock nut that goes on the back of those trailing arms. The driver's side of the Crown Vic front will have this centering washer, and when you put this on the back before the nut, it actually will center that bushing on the trailing arm, so that if you weld it that way and then you take this off and just put the nut back on, then the alignment folks will have room to align your front end. There's not one on the passenger side, so I basically just turned this on the lathe and made another one out of aluminum. It doesn't have to be really strong because it's just I'm going to use it for alignment while I weld everything up. So I'll have one of these alignment things on both sides, and then before you start welding those trailing arm brackets up to the frame, it needs to be 33 inches center to center on those back bolts. So as those back bolts stick through, you're going to measure 33 inches exactly center to center, and wiggle it around a little bit if you have to, or put something on it to pull it in a little, or push it out, whatever you have to do. Get it centered up on the frame, lower all the weight down on the truck, and then that's when you would weld them and tack weld them. Just tack, tack. At the same time, you can start welding your tubes in for the 2 big bolts on each side of the Crown Vic. So I'm going to put this on real quick, and you can watch me get that on there. So these go on the back. Now, that one's going to go, the original one's going to go on the original side. It goes over that little back thing that sticks out in that bushing. And it's kind of dark down here, so we probably can't video this. But I'm just talking you through it. It's not hard to imagine if you've got one of these in your garage. You know what I'm doing. Okay, then it snugs up. And I'm going to leave it where its hand just touching so I can kind of move it a little bit. Like that. That way when the weight of the truck comes down on this plate, it'll kind of flatten out and get flat. Okay, let's stick the other one on. Alright, we turn on the light, but I just took this bolt off the trailing arm, the nut. It was just on there just to keep it. Now, I'm going to put this on first. So, actually that's backwards. It always goes, see how this is shaped kind of like an arrow? This part's shaved off like an arrow. That goes forward. So when you put it on, that part's forward. Swing it up. Put my alignment washer on there. Slide that up. Get it where it's cupping. And my nut. Since it's a lock nut, you gotta use your ratchet to get it snugged up. There. Now I'm going to let the weight down, back down on the frame so that my pins come back through the holes. Okay. So now we've got the weight of the truck back on the Crown Vic front. And we've got both of these plates in place on both sides, and they're up under the frame. And again, they're touching in the back, and they're a little bit off right under here, about 1 inch off in the front. So we'll have to build some. If you can look over here on this side, what we'll do is we'll put a 45 degree thing right here to give it some stability, and then we'll box in this front part right here with some extra metal to kind of make that a very solid deal. Now, this is something that I noted is my back bolt. If you use this back hole in the bracket, it comes in right underneath your cap support. So this is the cap support right here, and it is right up underneath it. So I put the bolts in facing down so I could take the nut off here if I ever take this bushing off. So if you're aligned correctly, this bolt is somewhere really close to this cap mount. And as far as left and right, I don't know if I've got it perfect. I didn't put a tape on it yet, but I'll have to get that 33 inches. And then up here, on my next video, what you guys are going to see is I'll cut the big holes that go in here in the frame over the Crown Vic main bolts. Let me grab one of those for you. Okay, so these bolts will go in. These bolt tubes will go in next, right over the holes in the Crown Vic, through the frame, and I've got brand new bolts from Ford that'll come in and thread through, and then my top pieces that hook on here will flip down on top. So that is for the next video. So for now, this is Clay with Texasknowhow, and this thing is coming along. See you next time.